Hi friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today on one of the tarot forums I saw Giordano Berti just show or remind the tarot community of a deck that he published in 2016, which I happen to have. It was the Foudraz Oriental Foudraz from 1845, and I said if I have done a video on it, I'll post it, but then I couldn't find the video. And I think sometimes because I have so many videos, and I don't think YouTube allows you to search your own videos, right? And I did a search for the Foudraz Oriental Tarot to see if any of mine popped up, and it didn't. So as far as I know, I guess I didn't do a video on it. So I want to rectify that and do a video on it today. Like with most Giordano Berti decks, they always come in, really nice packaging. Now, this I think would be considered the deluxe kind of thing. It looks like a book with a wrap, and but I don't typically buy the deluxe. I usually just buy the standard because I try to save some money. But I think for whatever reason, when this one went on sale, and I think I bought it in 2016 or 17, the price differential for the deluxe was really not significant over the regular standard, so I went for the deluxe. As with all of the decks that I've ever bought from Giordano Berti, you get a book that describes the deck, and this booklet really has some fascinating information, and as I do the video, I'll mention what I remember. And then, of course, the part of the book also shows other decks that he has created. And then there's another little booklet on just cartomancy, or using the pip style cards. There's a little card that has the number, and out of 700, I got 379. So I didn't get in on it really early. Halfway through. And a card which I can't identify what deck this is from. Here's the back, and then here is Le Batelier. So if any of you recognize this deck, if you could let me know what it is, because I don't have it and I'd be interested to have it. And then I believe this is probably a card from the Metelli deck that I love. Okay, oh, and then of course the deck itself comes in a satin, kind of pouch. So let me flip the camera and I'll show you these lovely cards. Now the booklet discusses how in this period of time, and the deck was created in 1845, that the Western world was fascinated by the Eastern world, and it was becoming fashionable to have Asian influence in European art. I mean, even artists, like Vincent van Gogh, and for example, had been influenced by Asian art, right? And at any rate, so was the case with tarot, with this particular artist named Foudraz, Foudraz. Now it doesn't look like it's ink or like a printing press. It looks like they were drawn and hand painted or colored. And, bear in mind that the way that the individuals or the designs were perceived or created, not necessarily accurate, right? It would have been created by someone who was influenced by Asian culture, but didn't necessarily get details right. So it's a Westerner's impression of Asian, art. I wonder what that thing is. Another issue with the deck, I recall reading, was that some of the cards themselves were misnumbered. And so there were like 2 number 9s and 2 number 13s, for example. I think that was them. And of course, a player of tarot would never have tolerated that. You can't have, incorrect numbers, or you couldn't have, you could have incorrect numbers. We see varying numbers all the time, but to have like 4 cards that have the same numbers, right, would have thrown people off, and it wouldn't have been it probably would not have gone over well. In fact, I think in the book I recall Giordano saying that this deck really didn't go over very well. And either it was not created for the mass public, or if it were, the public really didn't like it and didn't use it. Maybe because of the anomalies with the numbers. And I think this is one of them. This was one of the numbers. And we see. Okay, so it was Justice. I thought, I couldn't remember which. It was either Justice or the Hermit. I can't recall. And Temperance. And then I guess Death. So I think it was those 4 that had the same. There were like 2 number 9s and 2 number 13s. I think something like that. I guess it doesn't matter. And yes, in this deck, they were corrected. Giordano corrected them. Isn't this interesting? The Hanged One is kind of like an acrobat. But there's such a delicacy in the rendering. Oh, it's really, look at that you don't get with, we don't typically see with flat, printing with, ink, right? I mean, it's just really pretty, subtle. It almost looks like, pencil coloring and watercolor. I don't know. Now, I've never used this deck. This deck I don't think I've ever used. Maybe I broke it in once with a reading. But I don't even remember if I did or not. Excuse me. I'm sure I've never used it for a client. I just had a coughing jag. That's an interesting Judgment card. Oh, I like this World card. I don't know why that I've never used it. Now we see a little bit of what it looks a little bit like, reminds me a little bit the flourishing of like a vachetta, right? The vachetta. I'm not saying it they were influenced by one another or not, but a very decorative and stylized set of pips here. I do not believe that the pip cards were numbered. I think that's an addition that Giordano Berti added, which of course card players would appreciate. It would be very, challenging to quickly count that there are 8 swords, right? So I can understand why this deck, if it did not have the numbers printed on it, would have been particularly challenging. Because even the Marseille style cards, even if they don't have numbers on them, you could quickly tell in most cases. But, here it's like, what? I guess the 2 coming down might be the clue, you know, rather than counting them all. But still, I could see that it would be a challenge. And the king is under a canopy. Now, isn't this beautiful? Look at this cup. What a pretty ace of cups. So the pips are just elegant. Very, very pretty. I might have to rectify not using this. Perhaps, you know, one of my next videos will be a demonstration reading using this deck. Again, look at the subtlety of color. Oh, just lovely. Again, the king is under canopy. Isn't that interesting? The number 3 is circled, either that or it was a stamp, what's left of a stamp. Very pretty. So I imagine if Giordano is showing, you know, this on a tarot forum, that there probably are some copies left. Now, my reason for having purchased it, I probably realized I wouldn't use it very often, which I haven't, again, under a canopy, but was probably because I thought it was historically kind of interesting. And if I, in fact, ever do find my previous video on this, I'll link it down below because maybe I had other insights when I did that one. It just becomes very hard to search my own videos because I have probably almost 300 and there's no way to search your own videos that I know of on YouTube. Again, a canopy for the king. Well, isn't that lovely? Well, I hope you've enjoyed it, and until next time, friends, peace and stay well.